Hello all, I want to feature a couple of the, what I guess I would call non-traditional decks that I use in cartomancy here on the Spirit Tarot YouTube channel in my how-to videos. So the one we're going to look at real quick today is the Cigány Kártya. It is the Hungarian version of the Gypsy cards. There are a couple of different versions of this deck, but because of my family and heritage, I use the Hungarian version. Now you will notice that the cards, the titles are in several languages, so if you don't speak Hungarian, if you speak English, that is fine. The English words are on here. There's 6 different languages, and to be perfectly honest, I forget what they all are. I know that German and French are on here, as well as Hungarian, obviously, and English. But I don't remember off the top of my head what the other 2 languages are. But the spread that I'm going to show you with this today is sort of, I guess I would call it a short grand tableau. If you're familiar with the traditional Lenormand grand tableau, you can spend hours, if not days, interpreting one of those. Even some of the other grand tableaus that I do, like the one that I did a video of for using the majors only of the tarot for a grand tableau, that can be kind of time consuming too. This one is a much shorter version. Now, this spread is actually called Rose, but it does have a very grand tableau feel to it. Now, this deck, if you get it, it does not come with a little, like, there is a little white book, but it's just to tell you some spreads. It doesn't give you the meanings to the cards. You kind of just have to go off the keyword, or I was lucky enough to find a couple of Hungarian sources that kind of went into some more detail on this. Those sources, though, have since been taken down. I don't know what's up with that. I had several different sources online that I would look at for meanings of cards in a couple of different Hungarian systems, and they're all gone now. So fortunately, I got the information when I did, because I no longer have access to the sources I used to really dive into these cards and the other method of Hungarian cartomancy that I do. So if you want to use this deck, you kind of just have to rely a lot on your intuition and the keyword in your language to kind of guide you. Maybe in the future I will do a video that goes over the meanings for these cards, but that would make today's video entirely too long. So I'm not going to do that in today's video. I'm just going to show you the system. Now, I am showing you this Grand Tableau-esque spread with the deck it's intended for, which is the Cigány Kártya. But this is a 36 card spread. If you happen to use a 36 card playing card method, you could probably substitute playing cards in that method for the Cigány Kártya. You would just have to decide on what best correlates to the significator, or sometimes I call it the anchor card that is used in this. So to do this spread, you will shuffle the deck, and when you feel that it's ready, you're going to go ahead and deal it out. You can cut the deck if you want. You don't have to cut the deck. If you do cut the deck, you can do that in whatever tradition you have. That is entirely up to you. But you will lay the cards out starting up here in the top left. You'll do a row of 9, then a row of 9, a row of 9, and a row of 9 till you have all 36 cards laid out. Now, how this works is, and again, you're an individual reader, you can do what you like, but the prescribed method is that you always look for the merriment card. And unlike Lenormand, where you have a lot of different significator or anchor cards that you could look at, in this particular spread, you only look at the one. You look at merriment. And merriment is about happiness and joy, and you're looking to see what has been, is, or will be affecting the querent's merriment, whether you're reading for yourself or somebody else, what's affecting their happiness. So we look for this card first. Now, anything to the left, going back to the left, is the past regarding the querent and what they have going on in their life right now and their merriment. And then anything to the right is their future, which is pretty standard. You see that across a lot of cartomancy systems. Anything to the left is the past, anything to the right is the future. But we're working from the merriment card. So you will just interpret those cards. Now I've kind of already looked at this because it's easier if I lay this out in advance before I turn on the camera. It's less messy for you guys and how you will view it. So that's why I lay things out first a lot of times. But I've already kind of taken a glance at this, and just because of how I read, we're going to actually look at other aspects before we look at, we're not going to go into that whole long past here, but I'm going to kind of look at a couple things for you to show you how to interpret this, or how you could interpret this. So merriment, anything above merriment, the card directly above in a straight line above merriment, anything that would go this way, that is the querent's thoughts or expectations on the matter. And anything below is called what the querent is treading on. And these are the things that the querent is trying not to acknowledge or pay attention to. Then another thing that you will look at, in addition to the thoughts and what the querent is treading on, is the diagonals. So these diagonals will give more insight into the thoughts and more insight into what the querent is treading on. So in our case, where I was drawn, and you don't have to read this in a specific order, but where I was drawn just when I put this down and looked at it, up here on the thoughts, we have the widow, and she is missing something. There is something that she is disconnected from. And we have ecclesiastic and gift. So for me, this to me would say that she's got some sort of spiritual, maybe not a crisis, but she's got some spiritual contemplation going on. She feels like she's missing a spiritual gift, like she isn't connected to a spiritual gift of hers. Perhaps that connection she feels has been severed. Reinforcing that, when we come down here to what the querent is treading on, what they're trying not to pay attention to, what they're trying not to notice, what they're trying not to face, we have some money, and we have the widower. So they had something, right? They had it, a little bit of it. Maybe it wasn't fully developed. They had a little bit of it, but somehow they lost it. And they're mourning that, and they're trying not to acknowledge that they lost it. Okay, but we've got some more information when it comes to this, right? We've got the diagonals. So I wanted to start over here. Again, you just go where you feel drawn to read to next. There doesn't have to be a specific order. But these diagonals were what I was drawn to next. And we have constancy, and we have a letter, which is a message. So they've been getting repeated signs about whatever it is that they're having the spiritual conundrum about, or feeling like they've lost. They have had repeated signs for a while that this was going to happen. This was going to go this way, or could possibly go this way. They had ample opportunity to try to avoid this, but they did not. They had ample, spirit guides were just giving them every sign known to man, and they did not heed it. And so then if we come to the other diagonals, we have the judge and we have falseness, which to me says it is the querent's own actions that brought them to this point. They misstepped. They did something that they knew that they shouldn't do, that it wasn't either in their highest good or someone else's highest good. And they essentially are their own worst or strictest judge at the moment. It's their judgment of themselves, because they know they had this message, they had every opportunity, they chose their course, and that course has led them to this up here. And so they are really judging themselves and the choices that they made. And sometimes we need to do that. We need to go through that process so that we learn and we don't repeat that mistake again. So then I would come to the future here, okay? And we've got loss, then we've got message, and we've got unexpected joy. So to me, this card, this particular loss, very often, most of the times that you see this card, it is loss that is the querent's own doing or fault. Their actions directly cause their loss. So this reinforces the other messages we've seen. But then we see a message of unexpected joy, which means that if they finally heed these messages, these signs that they've been getting over and over again, they are not so deep in this position that they can't get out of it. They have the ability to change. They have this message that they can watch for that will help them find unexpected joy. So the messages they were ignoring, Spirit is still sending them messages. And if they listen to and heed those messages and listen to the new messages that are coming in, because Spirit is still on their side and still trying to guide them, they can then recover from this. Now, it's super hard for me to see from where I am sitting, but we've got fortune, marriage, hope, the lover, and fidelity in the background. This to me very quickly would just seem to indicate that there was someone else involved, someone that they were very close to, someone that they had a bond with, an emotional bond, a strong, close bond. Whatever this situation is, whatever choice they made, whatever signs they chose to ignore, it probably directly affected this other person, not just the querent themselves. And they really had a good thing with that person, but they are risking losing it all if they don't heed the messages to come and sort of in retrospect act on the ones they've already seen. So if they don't sort of wake up and face what they haven't been seeing, and if they don't start paying attention to the messages and the signs and the guidance from Spirit, then there could be more loss. But they've already sort of acknowledged that something is going on, something is amiss. And if they really dive into that and face everything that they haven't been, they can get a more copacetic, prosperous, happy, harmonious future in regards to all of this. So there you have it. Like I said, this is a shorter version of a grand tableau. It's not super in depth. It doesn't look at a whole lot of cards. You only have the one significator or anchor card that you look at. You can ask a specific question when you shuffle the cards if you want. I, generally speaking, do not like to do grand tableaus that way. I kind of like to just shuffle them and lay them out and see what cards and Spirit have to say. But if you want, you can ask a question when you are shuffling and have that sort of context to interpret what the cards say. But I like to just leave them open as general readings. For me, that's one of the big draws of grand tableaus, because they are really great for when you get a client or you yourself, you're like, I want a reading, or a client wants a reading, but they don't know what to ask, or they have no clue what they want on. They just want guidance. They just know they need a message, but they don't know what to ask, or they're not sure what to ask. I find that doing a grand tableau or something like this, leaving that open to Spirit, can be very helpful. But that really is all there is to this. There are other spreads that you can do with the Cigány Kártya. I'm not going to go into them in today's episode. If you guys are really interested, leave a comment, and then I may do more videos on other spreads that can be done with this deck if you are interested. But this is a great little, it's a 36 card deck. It's a great little 36 card Grand Tableau-esque reading. Like I said, these cards do not have a one-to-one correspondence with playing cards, at least not in anything I have ever seen. Again, I focus on the Hungarian version. There are a couple other, I think there's like 2 other decks that are almost identical to this, but not quite. And I know I have seen at least one book published for one of those that you can find the meanings and things. But for the Hungarian deck itself, at least in English in America, I have not found a book specific to this deck. But if you are a seasoned reader, you could probably take, for example, the Russian method of playing card divination, or the kind of the main or most popular. I say that with a grain of salt. Like, it depends on who you talk to. But the Russian system that I know and that I teach over on Udemy is a 36 card system. And you could, if you really wanted, experiment with replacing playing cards and those meanings for these, but you would have to pick a card out of that deck that would represent merriment to you. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head what card I would even pick. I've never tried doing that, but if you are creative and industrious and you really want to, you probably could make something like that work with this spread. You'd have to probably make some alterations to it a little bit, but you could do it if that's what you were really determined to do. But I use this just with the Cigány Kártya. I generally use this as a personal reading because I don't generally do this one in my Etsy shop. I have other Cigány Kártya readings that I offer in my Etsy shop, but I love this deck. I like the images. Oh, quick note, if you purchase this deck, which you can, it is still in print, you can purchase it from Amazon. Even though it is a product of Hungary, you can purchase it on Amazon. But just a note that I trimmed the cards, the deck. It has a border around the cards, and I trimmed the cards so that they were borderless because I just prefer them without borders. I also rebacked the deck as well. Let's see if I turn this one over. You can see I used like a wood grain contact paper, and I rebacked the deck with that. So this is not what the deck will look like exactly if you purchase this from Amazon, because I did modify my deck. But there you have it. The Cigány Kártya Rose spread, or I think of it more as a Grand Tableau. Just another option and another deck out there for you guys to explore. So until the next video, blessings.